This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Cristina Pereira. She is going to talk to us today about science, spirituality, self-discovery, and sort of modern path to personal transformation. This is something that's very close to my heart ever since I was a young boy. I kind of read lots of different books on Buddhism and all kinds of different stuff. My partner, she is also very into this kind of thing with astrology, and so we talk about it quite often. And I always come from a little bit of a science kind of rational thought process, and she is also coming from another angle. And I think it's really fascinating to learn more about these things and open your mind and see where it takes you. Christina, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, Justin. Trust that 10 years ago, I would probably have been the last person you would be expecting to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah, you came from corporate finance, right?
Yes, exactly. And I would, like, if someone told me 5 years ago I would be sitting here speaking about epigenetics, astrology, energy, I would have rolled my eyes and laughed.
Yeah,
But
and
yes, I'm coming from the
why do you
corporate
think?
world.
Yeah, why do you think that we often have that sort of reaction? You know, sometimes I can talk to people about these things, and you can see their eyes sort of start to roll, and um, and I think Rita, when she starts to talk to me about it, sometimes she's a bit sensitive to the fact that maybe I'm gonna sort of say, well, you need to have this evidence, da 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 da. And
Exactly.
why this modern day do we have these reactions to when we start to talk about consciousness and spirit? Because really, I mean, life just shows us that the more we think we know, the actual less we do. If you look at in terms of the universe and all the different discoveries, we really don't know very much at all. And I think science
Absolutely.
can prove what we don't know, but it can prove what we know, but it cannot prove what we don't know.
Exactly. And you're already bridging to a point that also placed me in this journey because I'm a very analytical mind. I'm very pragmatic. And I also struggled a lot to understand or even to explain what I can't understand. And this is a brain mechanism, in fact. And this is why I guess part of my work is also to understand this kind of brain architecture, because not knowing it some sort of sense places in a situation of uncertainty, and our brain does not like that, our ego does not like that, because we enter in a survival mode. And for this we need to have some logical explanation, and we are not educated differently, honestly. The education we receive, it's always based on science proved or some technology certification or confirmation of the knowledge we get. And this is a Newtonian way to see life. And you are already covering one point, because 10 years ago, a lot of things were not proved. And this does not mean they didn't exist at that time. They were just discovered and they were able to be measured. And this is one of the points on my journey that it has been, especially for the past 2 years, amazing. Because as you said, I came from the corporate world, very analytical, pragmatic. I was 20 years in a corporate world in finance area. I always gravitated around systems, especially in finance, reporting, dashboarding, automation, big projects implementation. And of course, I was passionate about talent development, but in a different layer. So I guess now my new role as a coach and astrologer is not that different, but I'm basing the system of human architecture, the energetic blueprint. And also I try to unveil the gold that is within. And we naturally bury it because of masks of these survival and societal labels. So this is part of my journey. But yes, I started in corporate world, and it has been a huge foundation of my personality and how I drive my work. But to say that even the qualifications, the best qualification I have, it's the lived experience. And it started not only in the corporate world, but even before. At 9 years old, I went to an intern military school. And that was mainly part of my foundation: grit, loyalty, a very pragmatic mind. I had to be logical, and I am logical. And after the corporate world, there was this period where I faced 7 years through infertility. I was still in corporate world, and in fact, I had 4 miscarriages. The last one was in April 2023, and I can say that life challenged me because I need to find answers for all that excruciating journey, and the doctors could not explain. And it started there, my journey. I have a daughter with 12 years old, and a friend of mine, she told me just to get out of the depression and burnout I was in because I was not finding answers. I hidden myself at work. I double rolled for 6 months until the end of 2023, and I got to a place my brain just stopped. And at that time, that friend told me just to run a bus short, probably you will have some answers and some light there. And I told her I'm not holistic. I don't believe on those things. Because for me, astrology, honestly, it was the horoscopes in the magazine. Sometimes it was right or wrong, but I didn't resonate at all with that. And I ran the birth chart because I felt I had no choice at that time. And I don't know, all the 2 hours I was there, my mind was challenging every word that was being said. But long story short, it unveiled life experiences, traits of my personality I could not even name. And it puzzled me how a planetary scheme on the moment of birth can dictate or can unveil or not predict, but can translate in some life events. This was something for me. I got really puzzled, but I got there my answer where I had to go. And it would be supporting women going through exactly the same hardships I was facing. So I started there. And I certified as life coach and meditation trainer at my Mind Valley. But soon life challenged me again, and I had a stomach problem. I followed the traditional medicine, the modern medicine, let's say, all the treatments, medical prescriptions, antibiotics, and I was getting worse and worse and worse. At a point, I could even digest anything. So again, life set me and pushed me against the wall, and there was this energy work with healing with Oliver Nino, and I was again probably I need to try something. I don't have no choice. So I ran the program with him, and in 2 sessions, my health condition just got better in a surreal way. So I had to understand how this energy thing and energetic body works. And indeed, there are different traditions. I started to deep dive on energy. We have in uh, Chinese traditional medicine the key flow into meridians. We have in Ayurveda, the chakras, we have in Japanese tradition the key, but all of them come back to the same place. We don't have only our physical body, we have an energetic body and we have energetic centers. And this was a big awakening on how I perceived reality. What is this thing about astrology, about energy? And the thing is, the energy comes back to our basic nature in terms of cycles. Nature is ruled by biological cycles. For instance, how we sleep, the menstrual cycle, agriculture, everything is based on cycles that is in some sort of way coming back to solstice, so the sun and the moon cycles. And I soon realized astrology, everything was pointing again to astrology. And I had to deep dive that framework, how a planetary scheme can influence our life and can influence so many things. And this was a big part of my step to understand astrology, but first to disrupt the misunderstanding I had around it. And I had to study the transits for a long time silently. I was studying my astrology transits, and they were unveiling so beautifully how life was unfolding for me. And even while coaching people, I realized that was always some sort of repeating pattern that the conscious mind we could not elaborate. And when I started to just run some free charts in a free website, I realized, okay, it's here. This angle I was not seeing, this blind spot, it's here. It has been there all the way, and how we can work with that. So I had to study astrology, and I wanted really to deep dive to the roots because I know modern astrology, and it's already powerful. I'm not criticizing at all modern astrology, but it's already a compilation, a resume, a translation over translation. So a lot of information was lost a long time. And I knew I wanted to go to the root of it, of what astrology, how astrology began. And I knew it was in Alexandria, in Hellenistic period, 1 BCE century. And then somewhere it led me to this Chris Brennan, which was my course coordinator. He is a very pragmatic person. And in fact, he was also in some sort of way sponsoring the project Hindsight, because astrology for many years in Europe was disrupted, let's say, because it was considered as a pagan occult practice. And only there was a transmission of information to India, which in fact led and contributed to Vedic astrology, that I'm also very curious to know more. But to say that this project Hindsight was the recovery, it was in 1990, and it was the recovery of Hellenistic astrology. And they went to Alexandria, to the library, to recover even the wood tablets, the ancient documents, to reclaim this knowledge. So my certification and my studies was around Hellenistic astrology. And I can say since then, astrology is the bedrock of my work. And why I say this, because I also enrolled several master programs, several development master classes. And in the end, it's someone else's formula. It's not our own. And this is where I find astrology so relevant, because it's our unique energetic blueprint. So I'm really passionate about this and this journey, and it's so much widened in terms of how much the planetary influence can interact with our lives in so many ways.
Fascinating. It's so interesting how life-changing stories sort of, it encourages us to sort of look behind another door, perhaps where we might not have looked. And, very
Absolutely.
sorry to hear, some of your experiences. I can't begin to imagine what it's like to go through those issues with children. And, you found your way through, and I'm so glad to hear that. And, I don't know much about astrology, and perhaps I'm going to get you to explain a little bit more about it. But from my understanding, I always sort of, I'm going to come to it from a different way. I spent some time in Madagascar in a village, and we didn't have any Wi-Fi connection and stuff like that. And I had a client that was staying with me, and he later became a very good friend. We spent a whole month together, just him and I, having a few beers and talking under the stars in Madagascar. And you get very close to somebody, and he was a fascinating person. He was originally from India. His family is from India. He grew up in California, and he later became a Harvard professor of mathematics. And he was trying to study, so he would get up really early in the morning, and he would, before we went surfing, and he would just be scribbling formulas. And I said, look, we need to talk about what your work is, and you need to dumb it down for me so I understand. And it was very fascinating, because he explained to me that science is about being able to measure something. When you can measure something, then you pretty much know that it exists. He said, but my problem is, and what I'm trying to do with mathematics is I'm trying to create a formula that measures an electron, because we need to know that an electron exists. We suppose that it exists, but the problem is because an electron appears to exist in different dimensions, we can't physically measure it. And I thought this was, and he explained it to me very well. And I'm probably not repeating what he said very, very easily. But then it got me to thinking, and we went on to many more discussions from there. And I was thinking, well, if you're talking about particles that exist in multiple dimensions at the same time, then we started talking about multiple dimensional universes, and I spoke to my wife Rita as well, and she was saying, yeah, well, this perhaps possibly why we feel some connections with things that not necessarily in the dimension that we can see. Perhaps there is other dimensions that we can feel, or our soul feels or travels between. And it just became very fascinating because we are made up of particles. And this kind of opened my mind a little bit more to sort of what you're saying, and perhaps like things like astrology. I saw a really cool image yesterday. It was a NASA image of planet Earth, but it was the Earth under gravitational pull. And we always have this image of the Earth as being like a perfect cylinder, a perfect sphere. But actually, because of the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun and the different planets, it's actually kind of pulled apart, and it's not a perfect sphere. And I thought, well, that's really, really interesting because our bodies are, 76% water. And if the moon and the sun and gravitational pulls to some extent of the planetary system is pulling at the water of the Earth, I mean, that must be pulling on 76% of our bodies. So it must have some influence on us. That's 76% of our body that's being pulled out to space. And it's like, how could it not have an influence on us?
Exactly. And you're touching precisely two pilot twists in my journey. And one of them was what we call now, there are different terms, but energetic body, but we call aura. And in 1939, there was Simeon and Valentina Kirlian. I don't know if you know about it, but we can Google it. It's there. The study is there, and we can capture. They were able to capture the coronal electrical discharge, which is our energetic body, and they can capture with a machine, and the machine exists. We can purchase. It's very expensive, but to say that we can see the human aura, the coloring. And there is also an interesting thing that on this study, which is imagine a leaf. If we cut half of the leaf, the material body, let's say the physical body, just falls, the matter, but the energy still is visible in screen. It's impressive to say that. Another thing, we sometimes mix the physical 3D dimension that we see and everything we learn Newtonian wise, but there is another layer, which is the energetic field. And as you mentioned, our heart is also electric. Our brain produces brain frequencies. Everything interacts with our energetic field. It doesn't mean it not exists, but even this Kirlian photography, it's considered as woo-woo. It's not yet commonly accepted. And the other thing was the studio, and in line with the water that you were mentioning, the studio of Masaru Emoto, which is the crystal's water. And there were like two focus groups. One of them had the crystal's water, and they verbalize and spell words that we know they can be measured as a low frequency, for instance, hate, rage, envy. And another group would verbalize to this glass of waters emotions like love, gratitude, and appreciation, and joy. So these are high frequency feelings and emotions. They can be measured. And the thing is, the glasses that receive the low vibration words, they could not even build, the crystals could not form. There was no pattern. And while the crystals that receive high vibrational field words, they just transform. They build so many perfected sacred geometry. And to say that, which is it the impact of the words in our bodies, because our body is mainly composed by water. And this was really impressive. This study is also published. so that we can understand when we say a bad word or some low vibrational word, even to someone, but is worse for ourselves. And sometimes we use bad words for ourselves. We are lowering our vibrational field. And this is really something I try to bring to awareness to the people I guide. Even the mantras, this is the technology behind the mantras. If we are verbalizing high vibrational words, our body is composed by water, it will receive it. We can transmute the vibrational field. But these were the two main studies that really opened my mind. But it's like the bacteria, it existed before microscope, like the radio waves, it existed before the radio receptor, even the gravity. It existed before Newton could explore it in a mathematical formula. How much we don't know that we will be certain and able to measure and to confirm with scientifically wise, let's say, in 100 years from now, or even 10 years, I would say 10 years, with everything that is happening astrologically. But back to your question, astrologically, how I usually explain this influence. Epigenetics, let's start with there. The same way we now know that we receive and inherit in our DNA and in our cells some memory, for instance, generational trauma. The same happen in the moment of birth. It's our first contact with the planetary energetic field. And I would say I call it like seeds. Let's picture this way. We receive this energetic imprint in our DNA in our cells. And this does not mean it will manifest immediately. What will activate these seeds? It's precisely the transit, meaning the same planet that has exactly the same energetic binary, let's say, imprint in your cells. With the astrologic transits, it will activate this energy. And some of them will never be activated in a lifetime. For instance, very small or low-paced planets probably will never get to have a manifestation of a certain energetic portal. But this is how I explain it, and it's based also on cycles, depending on where we were born and how we unfold life, depending on the energetic cycles that are present. It feels like something, it will be so much at ease. And other times we invest so much effort, it feels like we are trying to drag a boat in dry land. And it's not because of the boat, it's not because of the person, it's because of the environment. It's the timing matters. It's how I usually explain, I would say in a high level way, what I have understood the energetics behind astrology. But there, you mentioned about NASA, and I also, my first challenge was Uranus, which is usually when we have Uranus opposition to the Uranus in our natal chart, this translates into big life transition. Usually we call it awakening. Wrongly and misconception, it's to call it a midlife crisis. But it's around 40. It's the cycle of Uranus. And I was puzzled, but why this Uranus opposition can cause this major life disruption? And I was investigating also in NASA, and it explained the composition of Uranus. It's
Very
highly
dense.
electric. And it has like some sort of activation, very electric field. That's why people that are going through an opposition of Uranus, and I would say 80-20 of people that come to me with urgency, they are going through that transit. And it feels we cannot hold energy in our body. It feels we cannot, our mind is too overwhelmed or running all the time in background. This is the Uranus influence. And because it has a really electric charge, but I would just pick one planet. But yes, I still try to understand because it's difficult for us to measure scientifically. But a legacy that astrology and the Hellenistic astrology has provided us was centuries of systematic observation of which planetary conjunctions or cycles or eclipses, what would unfold in life events. And having this for centuries, daily records that we called homans, we have a good historical. We cannot prove in a tangible way, I can say, but we have the historical that each time there is some sort of composition or aspect, there is the high probability to occur a certain event of a certain dimension or with a certain variable. And we are now moving, and we can see that with the technology, it's one of the big themes, and it's not by mistake. And I have been also passionate about to understand when I entered in astrology, all astrologers were speaking about 2020, the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. And usually, when we have this conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, we switch the element, the hermetic element. And it occurred in 2020. And we switched from earth element into air element. So it means earth, it's tangible structures, rigid power dynamics, production, the currency, it's tangible as well. And in 2020, we moved to air element, and the conjunction, it was in Aquarius, which translates networks, digital space, how we communicate, in some sort of way, how we process knowledge and technology evolution, especially AI. And where we were in 2020, we were in lockdown with the pandemic. So this was the beginning of the materialization of this element switch. But there is another element, which is Uranus entering in Gemini, which we are facing right now. And it has been the big theme of discussion with astrologers, because for the past conjunctions that went in 8058 to 8066, there was a technology expansion, industrial revolution. We had also the American Civil War, because Uranus, it's highly disruptive. It wants to liberate us from patterns, from boxes, from labels. And Gemini, it's the duality, where humanity is facing duality, how we communicate, how we share knowledge, how we exchange. So the two combine usually point to a high technology evolution, especially AI, and we change totally the way we communicate human to human. And it goes in line with the episode that you hold here with Tim Haldorson. I hope I'm not misspelling. And he translated exactly what the astrology cycle we are moving right now with AI and digital space and the breakdown of power dynamics, tangible structures, the high movement of corporate, of 9 to 5 jobs to digital space as business owners. So we are seeing really the manifestation of this transit. So it's also a work I do. It's to look at historical and know what we had historically, which kind of events occur, so that we can have a flavor how this will unfold in the future, which was what in the Hellenistic period it was done for many centuries.
Yeah, it's very different from horoscopes and sort of the things that many people are familiar with. What is it actually? Why has it remained so relevant, do you think, for thousands of years?
I guess it remained relevant because this is another era of, as humanity, for us to understand our biological cycles. And this is why for me, it's so important to bring this as the bedrock of my work, for people to understand their unique core essence. And we are falling short on classifying ourselves due to societal labels. And this is the major limiting belief I see, is people classifying themselves because they inherit certain, I am too sensitive, I am too much, I usually don't know how to communicate, or I'm not prone to be a leader, or something like that. And there is these limiting beliefs that we inherited for whatever reason. And usually when I look at the chart, I understand this is not a flaw, it's the energetic imprint, but it's something that it's unconscious. And this is why the work I do is to bring this to consciousness, and so that we can work with it to, let's say, I'm not saying overcome the blockage, because sometimes it will always be kept there. But the moment we bring it to consciousness, we can have certain mechanisms and to rewire our brain. And this is where neuroplasticity enters into play. And this is also the mantras, everything, the rituals that now we know there is a technology behind. And this is I guess it's the big differentiator factor we will have now. It's if we understand our unique energetic blueprint, the cycles we are moving, we enter more in a state of flow, and we go more to a more aligned and authentic life. And especially understanding the global cycles of the collective, because there are some planets that most will influence the collective field, which is the outer planets, such as Uranus we were speaking about. And in this case, how we navigate this big collective shift. And it will accelerate even more. And what I see, a lot of people are having anxiety and FOMO, fear of missing out, because we are accelerating the level of information. More and more information is arriving to our mobiles, to our screens, and it feels overwhelming if you don't have the right structure and the right methods to digest or even to filter, because the most expensive thing we can give away is our time and our energy. And if we let ourselves to be dragged, scrolling in social media, it's one of the points that clients say, I feel anxious about, I cannot get away. I just realize and I see myself scrolling for hours. Why? What we are chasing. And I think it's all this digital space, and based on algorithm, it will create polarities. So the more you think about something or verbalize something, and the more you search about something, the more algorithm will place information in line with what you're searching. So we stop seeing different realities. And the same with our brain. One other thing that I found fantastic in my studies was the RAS system, the reticular activating search. And this is a brain mechanism we have that if you think about something, it will naturally, you will most likely notice certain reality that is in line with that. And one example, you decide to purchase a car, a certain model, and it feels like for the following week, you're seeing that model all over the place. It doesn't mean that the car was not there. It just means that your brain started to prioritize the search. And I realized this was really a big thing. Even I tested with clients. Think about the parrots. And the following week they said, I see parrots at home in t-shirts, in commercials. It doesn't mean they were not there. But there is a big portion of me as well, and here that nobody's listening, the quantum field. How far, whatever we think and the frequency we emit from our thoughts can transmute our external reality. And we have, Einstein was speaking about it, there is this quantum physics theory, and I guess there is some influence, even if we cannot prove, but at least RAS, it's a fact. It's how our brain operates. And as I usually say, the more you think about it, the more you feed your field with information that is in line with that, you will get more of that reality. So this is something we need also to be conscious, and to say that it's all comes back for you to understand your energetic blueprint, because there are some people that are much more affected by everything that comes externally. And there are certain elements in the birth chart that to enter in this pattern can be very limiting belief in the long run and can be provocative of anxiety and feeding from this collective uncertainty we are experiencing. So this all come into play, but it's important for us to understand how naturally our mind works, and we can have that in the birth chart. Absolutely.
Wow, that's fascinating stuff. I mean, like, I come from a sports coaching background, and I definitely find that mantras and trying to imprint positive thoughts and visualizations of success, of picking up a trophy and doing a particular maneuver in a sporting event or and trying to focus on that and seeing yourself doing it, certainly it makes a difference. And and drawing people in and making that concentration, and belief. I think belief has a lot to do with it.
Yes, absolutely. It's a big point, because the more you believe in an outcome, more likely you will get it. And this is not only also the RCS, because you start to seeing the opportunities and to filter everything that will be supportive of what you're thinking. I also work with visualizations, but also to imagine the outcome like it was already done. And by doing this, we program our brain to feel comfortable, to accept certain reality. And this is all linked to our limiting beliefs. If we don't believe we are worthy or we will not achieve certain outcome, most likely our body, and this has also to do with our energetic body, will not be in alignment to produce that outcome. And there is another thing that people usually ask me about astrology, if it's fated. And this goes back to, and this was a big chapter on the certification, determinism, fated. What is the boundary or the break-even point here? And honestly, I fully believe it's free will. We have free will to choose. And one example is twins. Twins can have exactly the same birth chart. Very few exceptions if the moon jumps to another sign, but let's eliminate that possibility. Twins have the same birth chart, same compositions, and they can have totally different outcomes. Because exactly the same sign, the same planet, it always have a favorable and an unfavorable aspect. And the more we believe we can achieve something out of it, of that energetic blueprint, the more we'll be able to likely achieve that result. And I have seen this so many times with clients, people that have really challenging, difficult birth charts, and they had an amazing life. They saw hardships as portals of initiation, of transformation. It depends how we see. And I also have the opposite, people that have amazing charts, but they complain the life they had. They do not appreciate certain things. They were there for the long time, and this is also our brain interacting. We do not appreciate what has always been there. We do not practice gratitude on the things that are known as taken for granted. That this happens in relationships. If we feel we don't have to make an effort, we will not appreciate, we will not bring value. And comes back to gratitude, it's a high frequency state. So the more you believe about something and you take the positive, favorable aspects of your chart, the more you can create a life in alignment. And then astrology, in the end, is not a life or death sentence. It gives you what is possible. And the more you bring certain patterns into consciousness and work with them, we can not only mitigate certain tensions in the chart, which is blockages, energetic blockages, but the same way we can bring to awareness the natural combinations of energetics that in case we apply them in life, we will thrive. And this is something I'm really reinforcing, that anyone can have the outcome, but it's important to know in this map that it's unique to our own energetic architecture.
Yeah, I mean, we're living through sort of the biggest technological shifts really in history, and the rapid rise of artificial intelligence. So, from your perspective, how do you think today's changes fit into the larger historical and astrological cycles?
Yes, absolutely. We are running through what I also shared, the Uranus in Gemini, um, and this translates into really a big boost of technological advancement. For sure, AI, it will accelerate even more. And how I see it, and this is where the question bridged the most my corporate experience and my role now as a coach and astrologer, because it's not the automation, it's not a digital improvement or in some sort of AI implementation that is sometimes the problem. It's the systems that are underneath. And I guess this will be one of the challenge of in the corporations, let's say, which is to land AI over systems that are not lean, that are not simplified. So to add the layer of AI on complexity, it will accelerate inefficiency and it will scale confusion. So, and in the way, human factor can be lost. Because the information accelerates, more pressure, more information to be delivered when we are trying to mitigate and to have gains of efficiency. So this can be a problem if we do not go to the foundations of the systems and to lean as much as possible to cover with AI as a consequence, not as a layer to try to gain efficiency from the root. And the people where I see this, and I'm sharing this a lot in social media, which is the Aquarian era, this air sign element since 2020. And what we are being called is really to transform and change the way we connect as humans. And this is where I don't see AI as a threat. I see AI can improve a lot our quality of life to enable us to have more human to human connection. And of course, myself, I use AI a lot. But what regards to that piece, for instance, a chart reading, I know that, and I tested myself using AI and chart reading, but there is this intuitive, there is this human to human energy exchange that honestly, I don't see AI replacing it. Yes, we can automate a lot of operational routine activities, but this is what I guess we will need to learn in the coming periods. It's really to become more human to human and to sponsor more those kind of connections. And this is how I also operate, even in social media. And anyone that is listening to us, um, I love to be in the DMs and to have, I'm quite analog. You will not speak to many chat bot. You will speak to me directly.
Thank goodness.
I'm, yes, I'm a curator of stories and life experiences because this is where I guess our, what we are trying to remember here, and I guess AI will help us, it's to remember our human to human connection.
Oh, that's great. It's actually interesting because I just recorded a podcast just before you, and I was speaking to a documentarian called Heitor Carvalho, and he was telling me he's all about like making these new villages in rural Portugal and trying to attract people back to living in a more simple way where the community and the connection is focused on and is very important. And I was sort of saying, well, you know, that could be possible with AI now, making robotics and creating and doing the menial jobs and the manual things and the stuff that in the city that we don't really want to be doing. And that means that we could have the luxury of time and moving into the country and having more time with family and with community. And this will be good for our soul, will be good for our spirit. And he was saying, well, the problem with AI is that we don't know who are the authors behind the algorithms. So, you know, these big tech companies may be using AI to connect us even more to the productive system, to the consumer system, to lock us more into that agitation of producing or buying or becoming more efficient or whatever. I thought it was a very interesting. You know, he said it can go two ways. If we allow AI to be free, without human control, you know, there is obviously dangers there, but also there is somebody is not programming it to infect humankind with even more information and data and things that we need to process that we probably don't really need to.
Absolutely. And you were saying exactly the right words, which is freedom and technology. And it's all about Uranus in Gemini. It's freedom and also in our lives to get more freedom, more quality, and come back to the roots. Absolutely. This is really appointing this remembrance as humanity.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And Cristina, how can people get in touch with you and want to talk? I mean, what do you provide people with consultations, and what does that sort of look like, and how do people book and get in touch with you?
Yes, anyone can get in touch with me through social media, Cristina_ the Soul Alchemist, or in Facebook, Cristina Pereira. And yes, I do the full Hellenistic birth chart reading, and we go through the energetic blueprint. And by rule, and sometimes people want to deep dive how I can improve these blockages now that I'm aware. And this is where my coaching programs enter. There are some simple, like clarity and realignment, just to gain clarity on the cycle also the person is moving through. But also, I have my signature program, which is 15 weeks with me, and we go end to end through all the themes we have been exploring in this episode. But just feel free to send me a DM. I love to connect with people, and I love to hear from you. So just chat me.
Fantastic. I'm going to leave all of your. Well, I'm going to leave the Instagram account, the social media account in the show notes, so people can literally scroll down from Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Amazon Podcasts. They scroll down into the show summary there. There will be a direct link to get in touch with you via Instagram. If that's okay with you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank
you. It was a pleasure to be here.
You too. Thank you so much for your time. Really fascinating stuff. And I know my partner Rita is definitely going to listen to this. She's really into family constellations and that area of that type of thing. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cristina. Take care.
You too. Thank you.
This is Justin West from Podcast Portugal. Another very interesting topic, and I hope you draw a lot from it. And if you want to learn more information or just have a chat and start dialogue with Cristina, reach out to her on her Instagram account. PM messages, always welcome. Thank you. Out.
I got the sheet, I got my plan, I got my screen. Someone tell me please there is a need to stop playing Baldur's Gate 3. 1, 2, 3, we're living on a rock, living on a rock, living on a roller coaster. 365 per year, living on around in a muffin shop. I need to concentrate, I need to concentrate. Stop the strain of thoughts or I will be crashing on a couch. Won't have much to grouch about. Walking past another conductor makes me wanna build a fusion reactor. Starting just with the basic switch, connecting poles and energy. Mom says focus on geography, on the things I can learn with that machine. I need some fuel, I